What's up, people? Welcome back. Hopefully you're doing well. Welcome back to part 2 of business and financial literacy tips for freelancers. If you have yet to see the first part of this video that I put out last week, I definitely recommend checking it out. Some of the topics in last week's video include if an LLC might be right for you, setting up a business bank account, saving for taxes, my business and personal banking structure, and also the importance of an emergency fund and retirement account. And of course, a lot of those topics that I talked about last week are very broad strokes within those topics that they can obviously be, dove into a lot deeper, especially for the retirement account, for example. You don't have to just set up an IRA account. Like, there are different investment options like real estate or even gear options for investment. Like, there are so many different ways that you can invest your money to save for retirement. It doesn't have to necessarily just be an IRA account. But for me, talking about an IRA account was the easiest way to approach a retirement account to you all and not necessarily have to force that upon you, but just give you the option to start thinking about the importance of a retirement account. But if you haven't seen that video, after this one, I definitely recommend you spend a little bit of time and watch that one as well. In this video, I want to talk about things a little bit more specific to freelancers, and I think this could really benefit a lot of you because I get questions all the time like, how do I create an invoice? How do I create estimates? Like, what are expenses? A few of the topics that I want to include are keeping track of your money. I want to talk about invoicing clients. I want to talk about expenses. I want to talk a little bit more about taxes. I want to talk about paying yourself through your LLC or, say, a sole proprietorship. I also want to talk about debt. Those are the topics that we're going to be covering today. And before we dive into those topics, I do have to say that this is not financial advice. This is just me sharing my personal experience with you all. So please don't take every word I say as a final answer. Again, do your own research, do your own due diligence, and find what is right for you. But use this video as a starting point to start educating yourself and moving forward within your financial literacy journey. There's a saying that if you can't manage $1,000, there's no way that you're going to be able to manage $10,000. You don't suddenly learn how to manage more money once you start amassing it. Financial literacy is not a side effect of wealth. Wealth is a side effect of financial literacy. I have no idea whose quote this is, but this is definitely the truth. And I had to learn this because a lot of you, like myself, might think that once you make a lot of money, you automatically know how to manage your money. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. Preparation leads to success. Starting off, as a freelancer, you might not be making $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month. You might be only making $1,000 a month or $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month. And that's great. That's amazing. That's what I started. I think when I started freelancing, I was really excited to be making like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. And that is a great amount of money. It's very rare for you to start your freelance career making a significant amount of money per month. And I think that's for a good reason. Because you're making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month, use that opportunity to teach yourself how to manage that small amount of money. So as you grow in your freelance business and you make $10,000 a month, you'll learn how to manage that so much better, and you have a better understanding of how to do things more efficiently, how to do things properly, and you also just have a better understanding of your own personal systems. And that leads me into my first topic of today's video: keeping track of your own money. QuickBooks. And no, this is not a sponsored video. I promise I have no affiliation with QuickBooks whatsoever. One of the first things I did when I started my LLC was sign up for QuickBooks and create an account. QuickBooks allows you to track all of your financial functions within your business and your personal. You can connect your personal bank accounts, your business bank accounts. You can connect any account that you have. You could also send invoices to clients through QuickBooks. You can create estimates, and you could track expenses and create documents in preparation for your taxes. Granted, I do have to say that QuickBooks is not free. You do have to pay a monthly fee to use QuickBooks. And of course, there are different options and scales that you can choose from depending on the size of your business, but it is not a free software. And also, if you are using QuickBooks as an invoicing function, they do take a small percentage. I believe it's 2% on any invoice. Quick note though, you can write off the subscription payment to QuickBooks on your taxes as an expense. So keep that in mind as well. I'm a big believer in organization and simplifying your process. For me, as a freelancer, I want to be spending more time working on my craft. I want to spend more time on set. I want to spend more time holding the camera or lighting or whatever it is for you. That should be your focus, is growing your business and becoming the best freelancer, best artist that you can be. Not dealing with Excel spreadsheets and not dealing with the minute details of tracking every single little expense and inputting it into a spreadsheet. That to me seems like a waste of time, and over the course of the year, the amount of times that you're going to have to do that could amount to a significant amount of time that could be spent elsewhere. So I knew this about myself, and when I decided that getting my LLC was the move, and I did, the first thing I did was get QuickBooks. And the reason is because I wanted to simplify my approach. I wanted to create a system for myself that was essentially in-house, a one-stop shop, that I could do all of my financial functions without having to have 10 different spreadsheets, without having to create so many different documents. And I just wanted a system that was seamless for me and very easy to learn. So once I got QuickBooks, I connected all of my different bank accounts and tracked all of my income and expenses. The really great part about expenses and tracking is that QuickBooks does it automatically. Because you have linked your bank accounts, any money that comes in and out automatically gets tracked and categorized within QuickBooks. Luckily, QuickBooks is pretty good at matching your expenses to whatever category of expense it should be. But once a week, I usually spend about 10 minutes and double check and make sure that each of my expenses are categorized properly. And it's as simple as just clicking a button. And for income, all I have to do is just make sure that the person who paid me is getting categorized correctly as well. The other really cool part is that it tracks it in real time, obviously because your bank accounts are connected. You can track how much money you're making month to month, day to day, week to week. And you could also see how much money you're spending day to day, week to week, month to month. And once you have QuickBooks for a couple years, you could start seeing the growth of your business and start comparing year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and seeing how your business's trajectory is growing or declining, and use that knowledge to, change or keep going the way that you are. And having an understanding of what you're making per year, gross and net, that will be a good indicator of what you can expect to pay on your taxes that upcoming year. So going back to expenses, QuickBooks has a standard list of deductions that you could choose from, including car and truck, travel, meals, so many different standard deduction options that you could choose from. But the other thing is that you can create your own expenses that are more personalized to your business. One of them that I did in particular is rent, because I write off a portion of my apartment as a home office. Every time I pay rent, it goes into that category. So when my accountant sees that category at the end of the year, and it shows that total amount, being able to calculate that percentage is way easier. All right, so since we're on the topic of business expenses, for those that aren't too familiar, what is a business expense? A business expense are ordinary and necessary costs a business incurs in order for it to operate. Some business expenses can count as tax deductions. So what does that mean in simplified terms? Say your business grossed $100,000 in 2023. Say you spent $50,000 on business expenses in 2023. That leaves you with $50,000 in net profit for your business. Your gross revenue, your gross profit, $100,000, minus your expenses, $50,000, leaves you with the money remaining as profit, $50,000. Because you're an LLC, you're only taxed on the $50,000 and not the $100,000. Before you pay tax, you have the ability to spend that money on items and goods to grow your business, and then you pay tax on whatever is left over. So here are a few examples of some other standard business expenses: bank fees and interest, rent, utilities, insurance expenses, business vehicles, equipment or equipment rentals, software, furniture, office supplies, business meals, business travel expenses, employee retirement plans, equipment rentals, advertising and marketing costs, office equipment, legal fees, repair and maintenance costs, and depreciation of equipment. Obviously, these are just some examples of business expenses, and there are a ton more. And it's important that you have a good relationship with your accountant that understands your type of business, because, for example, you could have other expenses that are for one business but don't qualify for another. Like if you're a bodybuilder and that's what your business is, that gym membership is a write-off. But if you are an accountant, that gym membership might not be a write-off. So talk to your accountant and see what other expenses could be qualified for your specific business. One of the biggest expenses for me as a freelance filmmaker is travel. So making sure that I expense all of my mileage, making sure I track all of my gas that I spend, because at the end of the year, you want to make sure that you have all your miles calculated. And to be able to do this properly, I use a software called Mile IQ. And what Mile IQ is an app that's on your phone that tracks your movement when you're driving. So at the end of the week, similar to when I do QuickBooks, I spend about 10 or so minutes and track the amount of drives that I did that week. Or if I can't do it in a week, I'll do it once a month. but you can categorize each drive by personal or business, and then at the end of the year, it gives you a spreadsheet that is divided between personal miles and business miles. If you're not using QuickBooks, it's important to make sure that you keep all of your receipts. But because I use QuickBooks, I still keep a lot of my bigger receipts, but for smaller ones, I don't keep all of them because everything is automatically tracked within QuickBooks. But I still recommend that you get in the habit of keeping your receipts and making a file that is specific to that tax year and keeping your things organized. And one tip that I find really useful is, if you remember when I was going through the list of expenses, is the retirement account. When you start contributing to your retirement account, you can start deducting up to $6,000 if you are less than 50 years old. So that is a great way for you to keep more money and help you long-term by, putting money in your retirement account for when you're older, but it also helps you for taxes as well. Next topic I want to talk about is invoicing clients. Again, like I said, how I invoice clients and create estimates is through QuickBooks. I'm sure there are a lot of online templates that you could use to create an invoice that is more dedicated to your business and how you want to present your business when sending an invoice or estimate. When sending invoices, it's important to create a workflow. Stupid fly. It's important to create a workflow for invoicing clients and a way to obtain that money. It's not just how you want it to look visually, but how you want it to look professionally and how you want to lay out all of the information within the invoice. The first thing you want to do when creating an invoice is create a customer profile. And this could be for a production company, this could be for the pizzeria down the block. Whoever you're sending an invoice to, you want to make sure you create a customer profile with their name, business name, address, phone number, email, all of the information that is revolving around that business. This fly is going to be the death of me. In QuickBooks, it's an easy way to do this, but if you don't have QuickBooks, I still recommend doing this as well. When invoicing a client, it's important to understand what net terms are. As a freelance filmmaker, a lot of the net terms that I receive as payment is a net 30. And what that means is the day that I send the invoice, the client has 30 days to pay that invoice, or they're overdue, which can accrue interest or charges if you so want to do that. Some net terms may be shorter. Landscaping. Some net terms may be shorter, some may be longer, so it's important to talk to that client what their terms are, and it's important to send your invoice with the proper net terms. So here's an example of what my invoice looks like when a client receives it. So setting up a visually appealing invoice is only the first part. You also need to include options and ways for you to get paid. That's something that I've seen on invoices that I've gotten before from people that have confused me, is they don't specify how they want to get paid. They just send the invoice and then I have to text them or email them and be like, hey, how do you want to get paid? And that's just something that I want to always avoid because it's just unnecessary. For me, QuickBooks provides a solution that you can get paid via bank transfer, ACH, credit, debit card with a click of a button within QuickBooks because I have my bank accounts already linked. But if you're not using QuickBooks, a great way to add your payment options is at the bottom or somewhere within the invoice. You can create a PayPal link, Cash App, Venmo, check address, whatever term or whatever way that you want to get paid, write that on your invoice. So whatever you want to use, just add the username and specify, I would prefer to get paid this way, this way, this way. Here's the easiest way to do this. If you prefer to send a check, please mail it to X, Y, and Z address under the business name X, Y, and Z. Make sure that within your invoice that you just specify how you want to get paid. It'll be so much easier. As a 1099 contractor, it's important to also include another document within your invoice if you're invoicing a client for the first time. This one document is a W-9 form. This form is for the client to keep, and the reason for that is if you make over $600 with this client, they're going to have to send you a 1099 with the total amount of money that you make specifically with them, so that when you go to pay your taxes, you might have 15 1099s, 20 1099s, depending on how many companies you work with. And if you make $600 or more with that company, you might be handing your accountant 10, 15, 20 different 1099s. But it's important when you're invoicing a client for the first time, include your W-9 in that invoice. My last tip on invoicing is make sure you do it as soon as possible. Once you're done with the job, I usually don't wait more than 48 hours to send an invoice. And I know some people forget because they're so busy and maybe their process isn't as seamless, but for me, it's important that I send my invoice almost immediately just so I can get the ball rolling and get paid on time. We all work hard, we want to get paid on time. Don't wait 2 weeks to send your invoice, 3 weeks, a month. Don't forget to send your invoice. Create a system, create a structure for yourself that it'll take 2 minutes to send an invoice and you're done. But do it on time. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, taxes. Without a doubt, throughout this journey of being a freelancer, owning my own business, tax has been one of the hardest things for me to learn, to navigate, and to just have a grasp of. I feel like every year I get better and better at understanding taxes, but every year there's new regulations, there's new laws, there's new things that you obviously can't keep track of all the time. So it's important that you find an accountant that you trust. Personal story, I actually switched accountants this past year from an accountant that I had for about 3 or 4 years. And the reason for that is because, not going to get into it, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. And I switched to a new accountant for my 2022 tax season. And this was based on a recommendation by another filmmaker who believed in their accountant, and I went with them, and it was night and day from my previous accountant to the current one. So don't feel like you're locked into your one accountant because you've been with that person. If they're not doing the right thing for you, if they're not helping you, they're not educating you, don't feel the need that you have to stay with them. Find somebody that is going to better suit you, that is going to educate you and understand your business a lot more. Because at the end of the day, the only one that's hurting is you, not them. And for those of you that are sitting there like, oh, I don't make enough to hire an accountant, they might not take me seriously, and sure, that might be the case. One thing I do have to say is I wouldn't just look at an accountant as someone that's managing your money, but look at your accountant as someone that you're going to build a relationship over the course of the next couple years, the next decade, over the next however long that you're going to be with this accountant. Use this opportunity to look at it as a relationship. Going back to what I said before, are you going to start learning how to manage your money when you make $10,000? And are you going to get an accountant when you make $10,000? Or are you going to want to have an accountant now? So by the time you get to $10,000, you've had that relationship built and you have your systems, you have an understanding of the way that you should run your business. So when you get to the 10,000, you've already built up this knowledge with your accountant and you've had this relationship. Having an accountant is about the relationship and the knowledge that they have to help you grow as a business. So it's April 15th, tax day, and if you're smart, you should have had your taxes paid already. And you could either do it in one lump sum if you don't make a significant amount, or if you make over a certain threshold, you should be paying quarterly. And the way that your accountant will estimate how much you should pay in quarterly is based on your previous tax year's return. It's way easier to pay that amount when it's divided into 4 different sections. And then once you're paying your 4th, that's usually your last quarterly payment, and when you have to either owe a remaining balance or you get a return. But I would definitely recommend seeing if quarterly is a good option for you. And if you don't pay quarterly and you make a certain amount of money, there may be a penalty involved, but definitely talk to your accountant about that. And make sure you get your taxes done before April 15th. I usually get it done a month or so before, a month and a half before, because once tax season starts approaching, your accountant, every accountant is going to be bombarded with people trying to get their taxes done. So when you go to your accountant to pay your taxes, just make sure that you have everything organized and laid out for them. Taxes shouldn't be very scary, but I know they are. For me, they were, and I think I just mentioned in the last video, I had a really bad experience in taxes one of my first year being in business. I didn't understand it, and I think I had to owe every single dollar that was in my bank account, and I just freaking wiped everything out. From there on, I just made a vow to myself that I would do way better in understanding taxes, managing money, and trying to make it feel that when tax season approaches, I don't have to feel overwhelmed or nervous about it. And as a reminder, I do recommend saving 15, 20, or 30% of your income into a tax savings account. So when you do have to pay quarterly or that lump sum at the end of the year, you have that money set aside already. Next topic is paying yourself. This is a really, really important topic that took me a little while to understand, but this is some basic info on the importance of paying yourself through your business. The first thing is you can't forget to pay yourself. You have to remember that your business and you are 2 separate entities. Just because your business makes money doesn't mean that you make money. You have to make sure that you personally are receiving some of the profits that your business is making. And I don't mean, sacrifice growing your business and paying for things to grow your business so you could pay yourself, but it's important to just recognize that it is important to pay yourself, especially when you are going through things in your personal life. Like say you want to get a mortgage, you want to get an auto loan for your car, you want to do some more grown-up things. You have to show that you personally make an income, and it's a lot harder to get these things as a freelancer as a 1099 contractor because you don't receive a W-2 salary. And obviously, we could get into the weeds on whether you want to change your LLC to an S Corp and salary yourself to get a W-2 to save on, tax benefits that way. But in the beginning, I'm not going to get into that. Just keep in mind that it's important to pay yourself, because when you want to do these things like get a mortgage, you personally have to show that you make an income. And the reason I found this out is because a couple years ago, I was looking to get a mortgage and buy a house. But at this time, I didn't really pay myself properly. I didn't really pay myself down. I didn't really think about it too much. And when I went to go get the mortgage, my business showed that I made money, but Carlo didn't look like he made very much money. So it was nearly impossible for me to get a mortgage. And again, from there on out, I made it a point that I needed to prioritize paying myself. So when I wanted to get a mortgage or want to do these things, it's way easier for me to do so because Carlo starts to make more money. And the easiest way to pay yourself through an LLC is called an owner's draw. You could either do this by writing a check to yourself from your business, or you could do something as simple as transferring money from your business account to your personal account. But it's important to do this as fairly and consistent as possible. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. Again, depending on where you are in your business, what your goals are, just make sure that you are paying yourself. So the last topic I want to talk about is really important, and it's debt. Debt is something that some people view as bad. All debt is bad, and some people view debt as bad and good. Some debt is bad, some debt is good. I'm somewhere in the middle where I kind of agree that some debt is bad and some debt is actually really beneficial. If you're a supporter of Dave Ramsey, I'm sure a lot of you have watched Dave Ramsey videos, you have an understanding that all debt is bad. Never use a credit card, just don't accumulate debt, get rid of it, and pay for cash for everything. I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey. I actually like a lot of what he preaches when it comes to bad debt, like student loans. But the one thing that I don't agree with, that I agree with another person like Robert Kiyosaki, for example, where he uses debt to grow himself and grow his net worth and gain access to real estate and investments, that's good debt that I believe in. But for me, some good debt that I have include my camera, my van. When I purchased my van 2 years ago, I knew that that was debt that I was going to take on, but with the intention of it making money for myself. And I think in the 2.5 years or so that I've owned the van, I've had to pay it out of my own pocket maybe twice. Every other month was paid for by clients. So I own that van almost for free, essentially. But some people may not look at it that way, but some people will. It depends on how you want to view debt. Some examples of bad debt was student loans for me. Student loans were the death of me. I went to school for 1.5 years and I dropped out, but I accrued almost $45,000 in student loan debt. And when I got out of school, I knew that I didn't want to have that debt on me when I started a family, when I wanted to buy a house. So I prioritized profits of my business, profits for Carlo, in order to prioritize paying off that debt. And within 4 years, I was able to pay off that $45,000 in debt. And now I don't have any more student loans. But then again, that meant less money for me in profits, but I had to dedicate more money to paying my loans. The reason I bring up debt is because if you want to be truly financially free, try your best to get rid of the bad debt. Get rid of the student loans, get rid of the credit card debt. Again, you have to understand if you're a credit card person, if you're not. There are benefits to credit cards. I use them to gain access to points and miles because I travel a lot and I fly a lot. But if I knew that I was the person that was just going to spend on my credit card and I didn't have the money to actually pay it off, I'm not a credit card person. And I make sure that anytime I use my credit card, I actually have the money in my checking account, my debit, to pay for it in full. I've never once had to pay my credit card bill not in full. It's always been in full. I've never accrued interest on my credit card. But that's something you personally have to deal with and, look at yourself and see if that's the person you are. But just make sure you get rid of bad debt. And if you are going to take on debt that you think of as an investment, make sure it's calculated, make sure you understand the risks involved in accruing that debt and investment, and then move forward from there and trust your gut. And just make sure you're asking yourself the question, is this investment going to make me my return back? Is it going to make me money? And how long and how much money? All right, so that's a wrap on part 2 of personal finance and understanding business as a freelancer. Hopefully these 2 videos were a great resource for you to get the ball rolling in your journey to understanding finances, your journey to understanding business. Again, this isn't a one-stop shop video that you should just watch this and never do any more research. Use this as the catalyst to learn more from other people. And here are some examples of some other YouTube channels that have benefited me in my journey of personal finance and business. Life Accounting, Carlton Dennis, The Ramsey Show, The Rich Dad Channel, Graham Stephan, Marco Whiteboard Finance, Clear Value Tax, Tommy Bryson, Nate O'Brien, and Ayman Gadzi. Personal finance is not something to take lightly, especially as a freelancer, as a business owner. Take the initiative to learn it, to understand it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, but learn from those mistakes. Don't beat yourself up over it. You are going to make mistakes, but it's important to have people around you that understand business, understand finances and taxes that you can talk to. Use the resources of YouTube and other resources to better educate yourself. Read books. Educate yourself as much as possible, because like I said in the first video, being a freelancer is not just about your art. It's not about you as an artist or your craft. That's only one part of it. You have to understand the business side of it to sustain yourself for as long as you want to have this business. It's up to you. Nobody's going to do it for you. So take responsibility and take action. So that's all I got for you today. If you found this video to be beneficial, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, let me know your thoughts. And of course, there are so many other things to dive deeper into these topics, but hopefully this, again, was just a broad stroke of information for you to get the ball rolling. I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Peace out.